We talk a lot about bad popo on this channel. We talk about bad police, bad prosecutors, bad judges, but today we're going to be talking about bad FBI and bad prison guards. In New York City, there were nine prison guards, prison officials, people who were employees of the prison or the jail facility, and they were just indicted. They were caught for taking bribes and smuggling contraband into the prisons. It's kind of like an HBO special or something. We have this tweet coming over from the U.S. Attorneys Office out of the Southern District of New York. They say 9 Department of Correction officers and employees charged with taking bribes to smuggle contraband to inmates at New York City jails. So not like 1 or 2 people. This is like the entire night shift, like the entire night shift. They all come in. They're all just Tony Soprano, the whole facility. So here is what the announcement looks like. We're going to go through this. There's some interesting things in here. This is the U.S. Southern District of New York. You can see 9 Department of Correction officers and employees were charged. This was released yesterday, May 26, out of the U.S. Attorney's Office. Audrey Strauss is the U.S. attorney who's acting on this case. She worked with the FBI and the New York City Department of Investigation. They're unsealing the indictments of 9 current and former employees and officers of the New York City Department of Corrections. They were taking cash bribes in return for smuggling contraband. And it wasn't even all that interesting. It was scalpels, razor blades, drugs, alcohol, and cell phones to inmates in New York City jails. 9 defendants were arrested today. They're going to be presented before the judge. 7 defendants in New York, 1 in Pennsylvania, 1 in Virginia. So they just sort of went around and rounded everybody up. The U.S. attorney said that they were responsible for maintaining the safe and orderly environment in the New York City jails, but they abused their positions to enrich themselves by smuggling weapons, drugs, and other dangerous contraband. This alleged activity violated the defendant's duties and endangered the inmates they were charged to supervise and guard. So, you know, these are interesting crimes. Prosecutors and judges, they get super angry when these things happen. Angry, and it's very interesting. The reason being, I think it's actually for good reason, is because we are trusting these people. We say, hey, you are given very important responsibilities here. There's like a couple things that you absolutely cannot do no matter what. Do you understand? Yes, I do. Okay, can't do that. And so you've got not only sort of a direct dereliction of duty, they're absolutely breaching protocols and committing a crime, but they're also doing it for a very for a very selfish motive. It's for money. It's just to sort of enrich themselves. You know, some crimes we sort of will give people a little bit of a pass on, right? You know, like let's say you get into an argument and you just punch somebody in the face. You got angry, you got emotional. You know, sometimes you just kind of can't control yourself. And we go, look, I get it. He called your mother a what? Yeah, I probably would have hit him too. It was illegal. You shouldn't have hit him for that, but he kind of deserved it. So, you know, the emotions just caught the better of you, and we sort of, you know, minimize that. But if you do something intentionally selfish, like for a financial motive, if you say, yeah, I know this is wrong, like really wrong, and it's a crime, but I want that money anyways, and I'm going to do it anyways. You're sort of, we give you a little bit more processing credit for that. You sat there and you thought about it, you knew it was wrong, and you did it anyways, versus just acting irrationally based on emotion. So when this comes through, when this comes down, judges and prosecutors, they get angry. As we see, they went around New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia, rounded up all 9 of them, and here they are. FBI Assistant Director Sweeney said, the 9 defendants charged today risk the safety and the security of their colleagues and others within the Department of Correction when they carelessly decided to smuggle contraband. We shouldn't have to remind public servants that accepting bribes while conducting illegal activity would constitute a federal crime, but when it's necessary, that's exactly what we'll do. I like that guy. We're going to remind you, knocking on your door. Hey, FBI here. Shouldn't have been smuggling that alcohol in there. We have DOI Commissioner Margaret Garnett said, these charged crimes involving contraband reflect the pernicious and damaging impact of corruption. Yeah, get it, Margaret. I like it. Corruption officers and staff should protect the integrity of the jails, not promote lawlessness and violence by accepting bribes in return for trafficking drugs, scalpels, razor blades, cell phones, and other contraband. All highly valued illegal items that undermine order in the jails and compromise the safety of other correction officers and inmates. Thanks, FBI and U.S. Attorney, for doing your work, which is right. You know, if we want, look, it depends on what kind of version of justice you think is appropriate. If you're somebody that just doesn't care about defendants, and many people don't, many people say, no, you broke the law. I don't care. Do whatever you want. Throw them away. that's a legitimate thing. A lot of people think that way, and it's unfortunate, but they do. So if that is your perspective here, then maybe you don't care about drugs or whatever. People joke about prison rape and stuff like it's a hilarious thing. And you go, wait a minute, that person was convicted of an alcohol crime, and he was sentenced to like 5 years in prison, not rape. Okay. We weren't sentencing him to rape. That's not appropriate, but it's still kind of a jokey thing you see about in the movies and stuff like, oh, they're just, dead pieces of meat. These are just farm animals we're just throwing into the prison system and we just forget about them. So some people will take a look at, drugs and scalpels and razor blades and just say, well, that's just how prison is, isn't it? Kind of. Yeah, there are a lot of drugs in there. There are a lot of problems. There are things like rape and horrendous things that go on, but that's not how it should be. Because that's how it is doesn't mean it's how it should be. How about we give people an opportunity to educate themselves and learn things about, discipline and, faith and religion and all sorts of, reading, writing and thinking and learning skill sets so that when they come out, they're in a better position. They're not in there trafficking drugs, stabbing each other with razor blades, conducting drug trafficking through their cell phones, drinking alcohol. If we're going to want a system of rehabilitation and not retribution, we got to make sure this kind of garbage doesn't happen. So when the law enforcement people step up and they punish their own and they root out this corruption and this malfeasance inside the jails, I am all for it. Hats off. Well done, everybody over there. Now let's take a look at what is going on with the different indictments. We have Miguel Compres of New York. What did he do? He's a correction officer. He smuggled scalpels, synthetic cannabinoids, often referred to as K2 or spice. Oh man, that's some gnarly stuff. There was that guy who ate somebody's face off taking that. Like literally, don't look at that picture on Google. Don't. Cell phones and large quantities of cigarettes. He got $6,000 for that. So it's not that much money. Not that much money for federal charges. Charged with one count of conspiracy to commit federal crimes, bribery, maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. 10 years for $6,000. All right. Well, so that was Miguel Compres. Let's take a look at Tameka Lewis. She's 41. She comes from Brooklyn. What did she? Oh, she also brought some spice. She got, $40,000 in bribes. So that is significantly more. Miguel got a raw deal. Tameka must have had that good K2. Now, from at least in or about June 2019 up through and including September 2020. So over a year, charged with one count, conspiracy to commit federal crimes, maximum sentence, 10 years, 20 years, and another 20 years. But at least she got 40 grand out of it. That's, more significant. We got Dariel Diaz, who was 33. He got 8 grand, large quantities of cigarettes into the Rikers Island prison. He's got another conspiracy count, honest services, wire fraud, maximum 20 years in prison for him. We got Jasmine Reed. She's 34. She comes from Virginia, so they went and got her there. Abused her position, also smuggled a razor, K2, marijuana, cigarettes, a cell phone, other contraband, cash bribes. She went from September 2019 to December 2019. So you know what probably happened? Somebody inside the prison just turned. They just turned everybody, and then were just kind of watching it going on. They probably have so much evidence on all 9 of these people. It's not even going to be fair for them. She is charged with one count of conspiracy to commit federal crimes. 5 years in prison, up to 20 years, up to 20 years on another one. Then we get over to Temaine Pelzer, 45, correction officer. He got another $8,000. He went from August 2019 to February, so not that long for him. Charged with one count, 10 years in prison. We got Brian Harrel, 60. He got $6,500. He was smuggling stuff through the Manhattan Detention Complex. So what does he have? May 2020 to June. Oh man, just 1 month. So it's a good month, I would say. $6,500 for that month is a good month, but not worth 10 years in prison or 20 years over here. We got 3 more. We've got Rashawn Assanah, 25, out of New York. He got $7,500. Contraband, a cigarette, cell phone, same stuff. Robert Balducci, 33. He got $5,000. Did he bring anything else interesting? No, razor blades, marijuana, 10 years looking for him. And then Johnathan Garrett's our last one. He's 32. Also brought in the K2. Ooh, he brought in methamphetamine. Yeah. That's the hard stuff there. Methamphetamine, he got $5,000 for that. Federal crimes, again, another 10 to 20 years. So we have this all being prescribed by Congress, the penalties. Mr. Strauss praised the outstanding work of the FBI and the DOI. They're going through the public corruption units, and that's it. merely accusations. Remember, the defendants are presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty, which, as I said, is probably going to be quite easy in this case. Going to guess they have a lot of evidence, probably because people inside the prison just turned on them and just said, yeah, this is what's going on. Yeah, come watch. Watch. Here comes Johnathan Garrett. Here comes Rashawn Assanah. Watch what's happening. Marijuana. And they just watch the whole thing. Video, audio, cash exchanges, the whole thing. So they're probably going to take plea deals and they'll close those out relatively quickly. We have, though, so the FBI did a nice job on that one. But on this one, something's going on here. The FBI went through a woman's safety deposit box without a warrant. It's kind of questionable. What's going on here? Let's take a look at this story over from Reason.com. We're going to look at some photos, in fact, of the FBI digging through this woman's box. It's box 8. Oh my gosh, that was box 8309 was just one of the hundreds of safety deposit boxes that ended up in the government's possession when federal agents raided a private vault in Beverly Hills. Federal agents took those boxes, as Reason previously reported, even though they did not have a warrant for them or their contents. So how'd they get them then? The business that housed them is called U.S. Private Vaults. They are suspected of conspiracy to distribute the drugs and launder money and avoid mandatory deposit reporting requirements. But the unsealed warrant that authorized the raid granted FBI permission to seize only the business's computers, money counters, security cameras, and large steel frames that effectively act as bookshelves. So that's it, right? And when we talk about warrants, we have specificity in there. It's not like, hey, judge, I want to just go see what Robert Grueller's doing. Judge goes, yeah, whatever you need. Office, home, mom's house, brother, whatever you need. Cell phone, emails, go hog wild. Have a field day. Sometimes they will grant enough permission and enough specificity to do that. But traditionally, it's specificity. It's this hour, these hours, these locations, and things like that. So we saw in the warrant that they are defining those things for us: computers, money counters, security cameras, steel frames, etc. Per FBI rules, however, the boxes could not be left unsecured in the vault after the raid had been completed, right? So the agents had to take them into custody too. So here's what happened. They get a warrant, go in and seize this one safety deposit box. Judge says no problem at all. Now, the judge knows how this works. FBI knows how this works. Everybody knows how this works. So, of course, they're not going to call U.S. Private Vaults and say, listen, we just got a warrant to go and seize box, let's say 8310 in your facility. So we're going to come and do that right now, right? Because they would go, oh, perfect, 8310. Well, that's empty now. Like right now, like I just sent somebody down there to throw that out and remove that. So they would never do that. So what do they have to do? They have to do this surprise raid. They have to show up, guns blazing. Hey, we're the FBI. We have access to all this information. So typically they break open everything. Right? They got to break in there because it's an unannounced visit. When they do that, now they've compromised the security of the vault. They've compromised all of the other safety deposit boxes. Everything has been jeopardized. So now what do? They do what's called an inventory search or an inventory sort of analysis. It's a summation of everything that's in there because they don't want to be responsible. If they leave, if they just jeopardize, they broke the security of this facility and then they leave and somebody comes in there and steals everything, well, is the FBI on the hook for leaving it open? So no, they just sort of take everything and they inventory it. An analogy here would be like if you're driving a car and you get stopped and you get pulled over for a DUI. They can pull you out of the car. They can sort of search your wingspan, your area around you. But let's say, for example, they can't get into the trunk because it's locked or whatever, and you give them no permission to search your trunk. So then what do? They impound your car. Well, how do they search your trunk then if it's been inventoried? They couldn't search it because you couldn't touch it because it's not necessary. It's not in your wingspan. But when they arrest you and impound your car, now they do what's called an inventory search because they got to inventory the car so that when you get out of custody, you don't go back to the police and say, you stole all my stuff in my car. So they open everything up and they do an inventory of it and they write it all out on a list and say, hey, this is everything that we had. Here it is. We have it safe and sound. If you want to come get it, it's available for you. But the problem is, what happens when the list doesn't match what was there? What happens when they say, oh, no, that wasn't there? And we say, oh, it sure as heck was. It's a big problem. And they've sort of caused this on their own. They know that the warrant didn't give them access into that box, but they know by breaking into the other box that they've broken the security of the entire facility. And so they're responsible for the contents of the other boxes, which then will lead them to the belief that they can open these up and rummage through them, which is exactly what they did. So per the FBI rules, they could not leave them unsecured. So the agents had to take them into custody. In the days following the raid, the agents were tasked with identifying the boxes, innocent owners, so their valuables could be returned. Should have been a relatively straightforward process, but it was not. More than 2 months after the raid, Box 8309 and its contents is one of hundreds of safe deposit boxes that remain in FBI custody, even though the owners have been charged with no crimes. The box is now at the center of a lawsuit filed last month in U.S. District Court. The story of what happened after it entered FBI custody, a story told through screenshots from a video now entered as evidence, should infuriate anyone who believes in constitutional limits on law enforcement. We're going to go through them. The screenshots, some of which are presented below, show what attorneys representing Box 8309 and its owners say is, quote, an illegal search, falling outside of what was authorized by the warrant against U.S. private vaults. There are a few things to keep in mind before we go through these. First and foremost, according to this article, is the fact that the FBI's warrant for the vaults explicitly said, quote, does not authorize a criminal search or seizure of the contents of the safe deposit boxes. Okay? Second, recall the FBI did have a good reason for opening Box 8309 and the rest, as agents needed to find a way to identify the owners. All right, so that's why they say they opened them. The question then is whether agents went beyond what is necessary to identify the owner. In the case of Box 8309, it certainly appears that they did. All right, so they break in. The warrant says you cannot do a search or seizure of the contents of the safety deposit boxes. Search or seizure. It's right there in quotes. No authorized search or seizure. Okay. But it sounds like they have to open the boxes so they can see who it belongs to, because it's just Box 8309. They don't know who it belongs to. So as long as they can identify it, that should be the end of the inquiry. Open it, identify it, end of the inquiry, right? Let's take a look at what happened. In the first screenshot, an FBI agent is tasked with identifying Box 8309's owner. They can be seen removing the box from the, quote, nest to open it. Notice the paper taped to the lid of the box, which will become significant in a moment. So you can see this is sort of the nest. This is the box that we're talking about, Box 8309. And at the right on top of it, we see this white envelope here, right? Very, very prevalent. Let's take a look at what that says. Next, the agent opens the letter taped to the top of the box, which contains all the necessary information to identify the owner. Identified in legal filings as Linda R. She's an 80-year-old woman. She stored a significant portion of her retirement and her savings in Box 8309. It's also going to be significant too. We can see over here, we just open up the letter, right? So this is coming from body camera footage on one of the FBI agents, opens the letter, sees right here, it's got a lot of written text here, identifying who this belongs to. Here's the person's name. There's a copy of the driver's license. Name, address, 80-year-old woman named Linda. All right, so that should be the end of the inquiry. Okay, you're not allowed to search. The warrant said that, no searching. You said that you got to open this puppy up so you can identify who it belongs to. You just did it. Right on the outside of it, it came out of the nest, okay, which you have to open. So no security questions there. Opens it up, knows exactly who it belongs to. End of inquiry. No searches, no seizures. Return it to Linda R. Let's see. The documents taped to the lid even include a copy of her driver's license. There can no longer be any doubt about the owner of the contents of the box, right? Letter, driver's license. So what happens? The agent, he just decides to open the lid and take a look inside. So that's what he does. Pulls it right out, sets it right here, cracks open the lid, starts ripping open sealed envelopes inside the box, 8309. Starts ripping them open. Looks like a U.S. Postal Service box. Rips that open again. Keep in mind that the warrant allowed the FBI to seize these boxes explicitly, forbade federal agents from searching or seizing the contents. Okay? It allowed them to seize these boxes, said you cannot search or seize the contents of the safe. The agents, they keep digging anyways. All right, so it sounds like they're allowed to take the boxes so they can return them, but they can't open them up. So he opens it up. Agents keep digging anyways, eventually tearing open a heavy-duty envelope that contains an unknown number of what appear to be gold coins. See this here? Gold coins. Nice hedge against inflation. Not as convenient as cryptocurrency, though. But as the ransacking of box 8309 continues, the video appears to show at least one of Linda's coins falling to the ground. Oh no, look at that guy. According to an amended complaint filed last week, the search of the box was conducted in a shambolic and disorganized manner. No surprise that items were misplaced, lost, or worse. Look at that. A very valuable gold coin falling to the ground. Oh no. The agents, they continue digging through the box. They open more sealed envelopes. They're photographing the contents. Here's some more. Opening up this one. Here's another one, taking photographs. They're uncovering more stashes of valuable coins. Right? These are kids in a candy shop having a lot of fun with this. Then we see here at some points, it's not really clear what they're doing because they're out of frame of the video. So they set up a camera. They're processing all of these boxes. Got a number of people moving stuff around down here, his back's turned. Who knows what's going on the other side of their torsos. When it's all finished, the FBI's official documentation detailing the contents of the box makes note of only miscellaneous coins. Okay, now you're going to see what I'm talking about here. We're going to look at the inventory list that they write and watch what they put on here. We're talking about very valuable gold coins. Okay, we're not talking about change dish in your car. He just writes miscellaneous coins. Okay, like you just went through the drive-thru at McDonald's and you just throw your change in your coin dish. No, these are valuable gold bullion. What are you talking about? Without any specific amounts or other identification of the coins. Okay, with serial numbers or whatever's on there to identify them. In the lawsuit, Linda's attorneys argued that the FBI's search of the box resulted in up to $75,000 of valuable coins being misplaced. Though it is difficult to know for sure due to what Linda's attorneys call the chaotic and slapdash manner in which the box was examined. In separate legal filings, attorneys representing Linda and others caught up in the raid argued that the FBI rifled through hundreds of safety deposit boxes so they could, quote, use any information gleaned in the claims process in order to conduct criminal investigations. These pieces of garbage. Recent developments seem to suggest that's true, as the DOJ has filed forfeiture motions against more than 400 of the safe deposit boxes it seized from U.S. private vaults. In some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars are being seized by the government despite no criminal charges being filed against the owners of the boxes. They are just robbing people. I mean, actually robbing people. You know, when you watch those old shows or those shows that are set sort of in the Middle Ages and, the corrupt sheriff comes in and steals everything from the poor shop owner. That's what's happening, right? And I don't know if these are poor shop owners or rich shop owners or whatever, but this is the government coming in, taking private property, not charging anybody with crimes, doing it in violation of a federal warrant and getting away scot-free with it. We now know that this happened after the warrant for the raid explicitly exempted the contents of the safety deposit boxes. So they're investigating for crimes that they had no authority to investigate, this would be if they charge somebody on this, is going to be a catastrophic problem. This would be a suppression motion all day. I think you'd win it all day because they actually violated a federal warrant. So if they actually move forward with criminal charges, hopefully those people get good attorneys. In their own filings, prosecutors allege that only some of the company's customers were, quote, honest citizens. But contend that the majority of the box holders are criminals that use their anonymity to hide their ill-gotten wealth. That's not your decision to make. You got to have some evidence before you make those allegations. You can't just go in and seize a bunch of stuff and then rummage through it and say, oh, well, we found that's a problem and that's a problem too. You got to have the evidence before you seize the stuff, okay? Not the other way around. Oh my gosh, these are prosecutors. Prosecutors are putting that in their own documents. Box 8309 is not one of the boxes that the feds are now seeking to seize, being an extremely circumspect forfeiture process. They're not alleging that the box's owner is suspected of committing a crime or that her gold coins are somehow evidence of ill-gotten wealth. According to legal filings, attorneys representing her say that the government has promised to return her money. But they note it has refused to say how much it took, how much it will return, exactly how long it will take. The government's apparent inability to locate and return the coins it seized does not inspire confidence in the smooth return of her money. I wonder if they're investigating that. I wonder if they're getting warrants for any of those agents who are there counting those coins, dropping them all over the place. Maybe they're going to go raid their houses and see if they've got some gold bullion in there. that they may be transferred to somebody else. Do you think they're going to do that? Or are they going to be spending all of their time on Twitter trying to find grandma who is wandering around the Capitol building? I think we know the answer to that. Let's take a look at the complaint that was filed here. Here you can see search and seizure of box is the claim. This is a forfeiture type of a claim against the United States of America. Here's the complaint filed out of California, Western District. Here are the attorneys. Look like they're coming out of Los Angeles. We've got Benjamin, Gluck, Van Dyke, and Solomon and Bowman over there at a firm out in California. So we see here, it says, please take notice. We have the matter. We're going to be filing this search and seizure chain of custody claim. The motion is based on the notice. Okay, nothing much there. Introduction. Dr. Linda L.R. is a doctor, 80 years old. About 1 month ago, the government seized her retirement savings from her box at U.S. private vaults. Counsel demanded its return. Government agents met with counsel and returned some of it, but the government failed to account for the return of 40 1-ounce gold coins. 40, not 2. It's not, we dropped one and it rolled under the couch. Let me go get it. 40 of them gone, $75,000. The agents told Dr. R that they did not know anything about the missing coins. No, of course not. When counsel asked the agents for a copy of their inventory of Dr. R's box, the agents provided a property receipt based on their inventory for Dr. R's box that describes the property as only miscellaneous coins with no indication of types or quantities. I'm going to show you this here soon. Counsel immediately contacted the lead attorney, advised him of the missing items. Counsel also asked the attorney for a proper inventory of what you got. The U.S. attorney represented that to the magistrate judge and the court that this matter was required pursuant to the policies. That, in other words, they had to seize that to protect the agency from claims of theft. Right? We talked about that. Government has not responded to any of these communications. The government's seizure of her savings has already caused her more stress and anxiety. Right? She's 80. She needs that. The missing coins and lack of any kind of inventory, indeed any lack of response at all from the government, only adds to her injury. And this happens a lot, folks. Happens all the time. They seize guns, they seize cars, they seize houses, and it's really difficult to communicate with them because it's a kind of a different type of a claim. It's a forfeiture claim versus a criminal claim, and it's a whole different convoluted area of law that the government has really sort of written for themselves. They've written rules that make it easy for them to win, which is why people talk about this all the time, forfeiture reform. We see here the missing coins. For now, Dr. R seeks an order that the government provide her with all records reflecting how Box 8309 and its contents were searched, seized, and handled, including all inventories, all videos, all recordings of these processes, all chain of custody documentation, and all written protocols. And so chain of custody is the idea that you're connecting the chain one link to the other. So person A, FBI agent A, took the coins, gave them to FBI agent B. FBI agent B took them and transported them back to the crime lab, gave them to FBI agent C, who put them in the evidence locker. FBI agent D came back out and took them, and you sort of connect that. What's the log? And there should be a connection at every single one of those points. John gave it to Billy. Billy gave it to Mark. Mark gave it to John. And you connect them all. What is that chain? What does it look like? Dr. R submits that this material will prove that the government took over $70,000 from her without probable cause, as he had to give it back. With these records in hand, Dr. R will be at least able to know that she will ultimately be able to obtain relief either through the return of the missing coins or through compensation. Here is the list, okay? So this is what she got. The U.S. Department of Justice, the FBI, they came in, seized all of her stuff, put her name on here, Linda R., give her her address. Here's a receipt for your property, Grandma. Take a look. Here's what we got for you. We took one item of what? Miscellaneous coins. Okay. We got another item of miscellaneous coins times 9. And then we have miscellaneous packaging materials. And then we have Shakespeare down here writing us really, really solid inventory. Says something, star claim of 220 tubes of 1 ounce $50 gold American Eagle coins with red tops on them. April 21st, 2021, 1:52 a.m., signed off by Cody Bescript with the FBI. All right, so plus a chain of 220 tube coins, $50 coin American Eagle coins. These coins, which are very important, right? The 1 ounce gold coins, $70,000, just miscellaneous coins, like you got a bunch of pennies and nickels and dimes. All right, conclusion says that the government concedes that must return retirement savings, but it has yet to account for approximately $75,000 of that savings. It has not provided any proper receipt. So the government says, yeah, you're getting your money back, but you're getting $75,000 less of it back. They haven't inventoried it or anything. For now, she's not seeking damages for their loss, and even an order for their return. She wants an order requiring that the government give her what she asked for, specifically the material, the inventory material, and all of the information. So this is great. They're not even really asking for the money at this time. They're saying, nah, we're good on the money. Give me the materials. I want to see what happened here, which is great, and I would love for them to get it. Let's take a look at some questions over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. First up is Boxy Punk Chick in the house. What's up, Boxy? Says, isn't it just the common thing to expect the FBI to be corrupt? They claim they are not government employees when in reality, they claim they are government employees when in reality they are not. They're an organization that gets paid by government funding. How does that not allow for corruption? Well, I think you're right. I mean, I think it's extremely corrupt. I mean, we've seen this. We've seen this. It doesn't really matter what direction you go. You know, we've seen it both directions. We've seen an inquisition into Donald Trump that I didn't think have any basis. We saw covering for Hillary Clinton where James Comey came out and said, well, you know, the statute, the criminal statute for that says something like, you know, gross negligence. If you do something that's grossly negligent, we can charge you with a crime. And so the question was, did Hillary Clinton with her emails reach that threshold? And so in one memo, the story goes, he said, yeah, she did. Then in a different memo, he changed gross negligence to something like extreme carelessness. And guess what? If you change those words, it doesn't fit the statute anymore, so you can't charge her with a crime. So it's now not just gross negligence, it's extremely careless. Which to me, if you do something that's extremely careless, kind of sounds like gross negligence. But we're mincing words, we're splitting hairs, because she is part of that established power structure. And when somebody like Donald Trump threatened that power structure, well, they circled the wagons to make sure that that didn't happen. We saw all of this happening with the two FBI agents, the two lovebirds who were texting, we're going to keep him out of power. And, you know, what's the guy's name? I can't remember right now, but he's got that sort of devilish look, you know, that he gave when he was called in front of Congress to testify. And so they've got a political agenda, just like any other government organization does. And when you have somebody that goes in there and rocks the boat, they're not going to let that happen. And they're very powerful. They're going to effectuate what they can to achieve their ends. We have Nadar Blasir says, I wonder if any of these corrections officers worked where Epstein suicided himself. It's a good question. Now, those two, we have not talked about that here yet. That's in my queue. I'm waiting on a Maxwell update because there's a lot of activity going on the Ghislaine Maxwell case, a lot. And it's like, I have to pace myself on the updates because we could talk about her case every day for 3 hours. I mean, there's stuff going on every day. It's crazy. But so we're sort of pacing ourselves. But yeah, two of the guards who were involved in the Epstein case, the two guards who were supposed to be making sure that nothing happened to him, have pled guilty to crimes for their negligence in that case. So we're going to cover that at some point. It's just in the queue. Boxy Punk Chick says, I think there is missing information. How were they to know what was supposed to be in the box? In order to say what people say what's missing, there would have to be logs of everything in there for to say, yes, it was missing. Or it is he said, she said. Yeah. So I think you're right. And we don't know that. You're correct. We don't know what Dr. L has. Okay. We don't know if she has an inventory of her own. I would presume that she does because that's a lot of money. I would guess that she has her own list somewhere. She knows what's in there. And so she's able to compare and contrast. Now, the problem here is that she can't contrast anything with what the government gave her because their receipt list says nothing on there. It just says miscellaneous coins. It doesn't even tell us how many of them. Not 20, not 12, not 40, not 50, nothing. It's just miscellaneous coins times 9. So if they went missing, how would they even know? They wouldn't because they did an incompetent job here. But you're right. We don't know, right? We don't know. Nadarb says, so why were they in this room searching all the safes in the first place? Did I miss that part or did they not give a reason? I think I kind of glossed over that, but they got a warrant for one particular box. So the judge actually said, yep, you've investigated this person. You know, you've gone through a traceability. You can connect the funds to this person. You know where they are. You've, got access to the bank account. He's, does business here, whatever. They got access to an email. They know his safety deposit box has some illegal contraband. So they do get permission for that one. Then when they get access in there, Now, since they've wrecked the security of the facility, they got to be responsible for all of the other materials there. The warrant said, that's fine. You can take those. You can take those with you, but you can't look inside. You can't search inside. They have done that anyways, and now they're using the contents, what they found, to, it sounds like, investigate other criminal charges. And so this is really, really pernicious, because what happens here? What happens if they find, let's say, oh, we got Robert Grueller's safety deposit box. Oh, there's something interesting in there. And now, let's say I never was on their radar, so they weren't looking at me in the first place, and they know that they can't use anything that they found in that safety deposit box to come after me, because they got it as the fruit of a poisonous tree. They got it basically illegally. They're in violation of a federal warrant to search the boxes. They searched it anyways. If they were to charge me with a crime based on what they found in that safety deposit box, my response would be, hey, you should have never opened that up in the first place. That was illegal. That's going to be my defense. That's a motion to suppress. We're going to throw that out. And I think a judge would find in my favor on that. So what you say, okay, well, no harm, no foul. First of all, a lot of harm. I got charged with a crime. I got to hire an attorney. I got to go through all of this process in order to clear my name, which is a lot of work, a lot of effort. But number two, what happens if they don't charge me with a crime for that safety deposit box? But they just say, oh, well, now we know because we looked in your box that we've got some questionable evidence here. So we're just going to start kind of monitoring now. Now we're going to just start sending an agent out to kind of sit outside your house, or we're going to follow you to your office, or we're going to follow you into that bank, or follow you into that store, or to that private lunch, and then gather evidence about you in that manner. Now that evidence is not going to be tainted by the illegality of the unlawful search. So they could still justify criminal charges in a roundabout way to incriminate you. Now, they would have never even heard about you had they not seen what was in your safety deposit box illegally. But because you can't make the connection, and because they found an independent basis for investigating you later down the line, they can go that route without any repercussions or any concerns about a motion to suppress or anything like that, which is why this is problematic. And they know that. They want to get all the names, and then they're going to go launch separate independent investigations and say, oh yeah, we screwed up. Here's all your stuff back. Meanwhile, they've got mountains of evidence from their unlawful search. Very, very corrupt. We have Joe Snow says, how is this government who seized all these safety deposit boxes keeping you or me safe? Why do we need them? Serious question. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I guess for national security. I mean, what does the government do on a regular basis for you? You wake up every day, you do most everything yourself, and most everything that you do and that is done for you is through private business and private enterprise. And the government just kind of grifts off the top of everything. And they say, no, we're solving all of these things for you. Are they? Or are they taking credit for the solutions that other people and other businesses and things put into society? I think it's strongly the latter. I'm not real sure what we need a government for in many aspects. We have Jeremy Matrita says, in my opinion, if you store valuables in a safety deposit box, you should insure it. The bank does not insure your box. You can get a rider policy on your homeowner's insurance and will be required to take an inventory with pictures is highly recommended. Anything that is out of your immediate control is not 100% safe. Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good advice on that. Yeah. I mean, I don't have a safety deposit box. I got to acquire some more assets, but I'm working on that right now. So I'll dictate my safety deposit box policy later in life, I think. We have Sharon Quidney says, if they manage to do this enough people, they might be able to put a dent in the national debt. I know, right? They could. It's sort of like a seizure. Doesn't Marx talk about that? Sort of a seizure of the bourgeois, the proletariat, seize the means of power. Oh gosh, Marx, it's the worst. We have See the Veil says, the lawsuit really needs to focus on forcing the agents to buy from their savings and their yearly salary these gold coins at current value and give them to her in person and offer an apology. Then force those agents to go after the real murderers of Indians in the USA. All right. So you got, I like it, give them the money back and go after the real bad guys. I like that. I think that's a good policy. We have High Desert says, Rob, does the bank have any duty to protect the other boxes that the warrant didn't include? Any exposure for liability? It's a good question, High Desert. I don't think so. I mean, there's sort of, it sounds like they may be the subject of the entire investigation. So it sounds like that organization was, Safety Deposit Vaults USA or whatever the name of it was. And it was actually that organization in its entirety that was the subject of the investigation. So it wasn't like they went into a Wells Fargo or a Bank of America and just needed one safety deposit box. Like they went over the whole thing. So I would guess that they in other words, liability from on behalf of the bank is the least of their concern, because I think that the entire infrastructure is part of the investigation. This was a big deal, right? This was a big investigation, spanned many agencies, FBI and many others. And so I think that the bigger issue, the exposure, is not civil liability relative to the property rights of the other owners of the boxes. It's more about criminal exposure. It's a good question, though. All right, so we've got one great questions. Those all came over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Thank you for your support over there. It means the world to us. I really do appreciate it. And we're having fun building that community up. We have a workshop coming up on June 12th called Law Enforcement Interaction Training. I hope to see you there. It's free and available to all of you who are subscribers over at Locals. So thank you for that.